This is the Littleton Sustainability Committee from February 6th, 2025. And the first thing we'll do is have the member roll call so Margaret can record us.
Okay, I have Sarah Rombacher, Charlotte Dolens, myself, Rob Houston, Emily Squires, and John Hagberg.
Okay, thank you. And then the next would be approved minutes from the January 9th, 2025 meeting. Are there any comments on those?
I have
No
none.
comments. They looked great.
Okay,
You want
Okay.
a motion?
Yeah, is there a motion to approve them?
I move to approve the minutes from the January 9th Sustainability Committee.
And a second?
Second.
All right, we'll go around. So let's see, let's start with John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Charlotte,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Margaret,
yes.
and I also vote yes. Okay, and then the next item would be the minutes from our joint meeting with the select board on January 27th, where we presented a few slides to the select board about what we've been doing over the past year. And thank you to John for writing those up. Are there any comments on that?
Looks good.
All right. Is there a motion
Thanks
to
for
approve?
clarifying too, John. I move to approve them.
And a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. I will go around again. John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Charlotte,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
and yes for me too as well. Oh, and Don just showed up. So let me promote him. Let's give him a quick chance to make sure that he didn't have any comments on that. Hi, Don.
Hi, yes, I vote for it.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to keep an eye on the queue there.
That's okay.
Okay. We're to public input, and I see that we do have some guests tonight. I think they can raise their hand if they want to say anything. I'll just double check if there's any options. Sorry, I don't do these in Zoom too often. Okay, so I think that they may be here for the Shaker Lane Building Sustainability Committee, which is actually next on the agenda. So with no other public input, we'll move on to that. So really, I had put it on the agenda because Charlotte, you had volunteered to be the liaison to that.
Yeah, sorry, jumping in. So I received an email from Mrs. Kane, the principal over at Shaker Lane, and then also Meryl had reached out, but suggesting that that I participate in the subcommittee that they will be having on sustainability. Although I think everybody mentioned that the next meeting, and maybe others on the line, the guests will be able to confirm this. The meeting is, I think, February 11th, where they'll be able to provide more information about like the nature of that engagement, like what I guess we can add to that subcommittee. But seeing as we have our guests here today as well, perhaps we can ask their questions too. So I'm very happy to serve that role and to be that liaison, but I'm also happy for inputs from this group and from others just to see what the best way of doing that would be. Yeah, open to suggestions, and yeah, looking forward to hearing more about the project as well. Both my kids, I think, will age out of Shaker Lane before the new school is realized, but nonetheless, it's an interesting and yeah, a project that's near and dear to me and our family. So I'm excited to hear more about it.
Just in case I'm misunderstanding Zoom and they can't raise. Oh, Meryl does have. Okay.
Right.
All right. There you go, Meryl.
That was good. That was for both of us. I would turn my camera on. I don't know how though.
Let's see. I think I need to promote you to a panelist. So let me do that. And I don't know if the others would like to also join as panelists or not.
And when you get, yeah.
Present. Okay, good. Good. I've been staring at you all. So hello, nice to see you all. Nice to meet you. Charlotte, nice to welcome you onto the sustainability subcommittee. So I'm with Studio G Architects working on the Shaker Lane project, which has been amazing. It's such a great community. We're so happy to be part of creating this building for you all in the future. We're getting into sustainability. The meeting next Tuesday is where the subcommittee is formed. So this is a MSBA project, the Mass School Building Authority. So essentially, it's a lot of checks and balances, making sure representation is there. So there needs to be a vote to create a subcommittee to the school building. It's a subcommittee of the school building committee. So that's the formality that has to happen first. We're not going to be getting into sustainability at that point. It just forms the committee that allows us to engage you all. So it's great as far as just making sure that everyone's on board, as far as the public in town of Littleton. So there's also going to be members of the school building committee as well who are part of that. So it's kind of, you're the liaison, Charlotte. I'm really grateful that you're stepping forward with that. I hope you can bring the voice to the table. And really, we just want to learn the goals, the aspirations, influences that you can bring to the project. So it's more of a get to know you, but we're in schematic design, so we're also moving kind of fast. So there will be some meetings that will happen, some workshops. We're looking at 2 potential workshops, one at the end of February potentially, and one at the end of March. So getting going, and we just want to make sure that we're building a building that meets your sustainable goals in your town. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. While I have you, I'll just ask a quick
I was
question.
Say, I'm here if there's questions about it.
Yeah, I guess I just had a couple of questions, and if it's too early, that's fine too. But I just was curious if there is a plan to attempt to do a fossil-free building.
So those are exactly the type of topics that we want to broach with you, because it needs to be feasible. It needs to be, we know you're a municipality for electric, so it's been a great resource to have the municipality, the muni, we call it, for the electric. That's the kind of things that we want to talk about with you to make sure we're meeting the responsibility of the future of the world, right? You know, making sure that we can really fulfill these needs. So, and on budgets too. You know, the cost is also, we're going to be looking at life cycle cost analysis, if that means something to you all. Just making sure that we're building a building that can withstand for the future.
Great. Yeah.
So your time is impeccable. So that was the time to get you guys involved and really engaged. So we're thrilled.
Great. Yeah. And I was curious about the timeline of certain decisions. So you'll presumably, with this liaison, you'll keep us informed as far as so that we can provide input, before it's too late, after that, before a decision has been made. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. We don't want to make this in a silo. These decisions are really more than just our design team, but really come from you all as well. So we're looking forward to the dialogue and collaboration too. So
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic that you can join as well this evening. And I think my questions were going to be and may still be, as we continue this sort of back and forth, how we can best serve as the Sustainability Committee, like what can we offer that is filling the gaps from your perspective.
Mhm.
Notice that a lot of your, obviously, this is an area of expertise for you as your projects very much highlight, as far as I can see, that sustainability aspect. So yeah, finding out where we can add value, I think, is going to be really helpful. And I expect that will come out a little bit after your next meeting as well. But to the extent that we can get, that sort of direction. And then also just be opportunistic, how we can help. With that in mind, I think maybe further down the line, I personally was thinking it would be really helpful to hear from you where and how you have kind of, where you've been game changing in that sustainability space, and with the Florence Roche.
Florence Roche, yeah, next door, yeah, Florence Roche project.
Yeah, I think both in terms of just understanding your portfolio better, but also that kind of inspiring as well a little bit to see what other projects that you've worked on and what you think and has the potential for. I think that's also going to be really exciting. So yeah, just excited about it.
Likewise, and it's hearing what your appetite is, right? What are you hungry for? What do you want to see here versus the cost paybacks as well? So it's really, we're the designers, but we need to hear the input from you all. We're not doing this on our own, so it's exciting. There's I guess two things I could mention that are part of the MSBA process is that it will be LEED Silver. So that's kind of a target. It will be a LEED Silver project. That's one aspect. And then it will also be solar panel ready. So has the structure to support solar panels, the infrastructure. It's up to the district and the town to determine whether it's executed, but it's ready. It's called solar ready. So that's something that is part of the MSBA process. So that's exciting that they're making sure that those two aspects at least happen. So,
Don, you have your hand up.
Sure. Good introduction. Nice, positive approach, and it sounds like there's a mutual interest or a win-win solution.
Mhm.
And very nice. Just thinking in the past when we've tried to influence things, such as the fire department was being rebuilt, and asked about solar panels, and the architect said he didn't really believe in green roofs and solar panels. So it's nice having a positive approach. And of course, it's figuring out the cost as well.
Mhm.
But one of the things I'm very disappointed that hasn't happened in the town, and it seems appropriate here, is having solar panel carports.
Mhm.
I see the Wayland School System doing that. I see the Discovery Museum in Acton doing that. I see private businesses, Raytheon, REI doing that. And I keep wondering, why can't Littleton do that? Because it does cut down on costs. There's an outlay, but I'm glad we're going to be part of this as opposed to being left out.
Absolutely.
But very much interested in having things like that. We look at the library, which was under the library trustees, and they did things very positively, although they were limited in the solar panels they could put there because of the Littleton Electric Light Department, as I understand it. So anyway, I look forward to this, and be
Likewise.
nice to be progressive.
Yeah.
So thank you much.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
John, I saw your hand up. Did you? Okay, you're good. Okay, Emily.
This might not be the right time to ask, but I'm just a little curious. When you do your buildings, do you consider things such as thermal heat pumps?
So we're going to be looking at mechanical systems. That's definitely air source, ground source, heat pumps. That's all now. we're really, now's the time to really explore those options. And again, the life cycle cost analysis, how it's going to be impacted, what the payback would be, how we can really incorporate it into the project. So those are the questions that we have imminently approaching. So the timing is really good to bring you all on board to see what the interest is and if that's a possibility even. So
Great. Thank you.
thanks.
I think Rob, you're next.
Sure. So mine was just a quick follow on to that point, and that is remembering that Littleton's a muni electric. Our electric charge is like 15 cents a kilowatt hour, and our gas or oil or anything other than electric is like 4 times that price, right?
Yeah.
So anything
I hear ya.
to get electricity running through these buildings instead of natural gas or oil or whatever strikes me as just operationally cheaper or less expensive. So you're all over that. I just wanted to raise that. That was it.
Well, it's interesting because we recently, for the life cycle cost analysis, to see what the rates are, we requested the utility bills of the current Shaker Lane school. And I forwarded them along to our electrical engineer, and he goes, "Is this a typo?" I've never seen rates this low before. So our electrical engineer is over the moon, and just the possibilities of the savings that could happen with a muni. So
that's why we think it's possible to actually do more. Whether it's electric heat pumps or geothermal heat pumps or whatever, if you can cycle it with electricity. It just seems like solar obviously is better than at creating it's good too. But so anyway, that was it.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Charlotte.
Yeah, thanks. Again, just sort of throwing a few things out there, and I am probably least qualified to talk about this, but the climate action plan that the Sustainability Committee is working on, I think this is very fortuitous that we're also having these conversations as we're also working on a climate action plan, which includes things like the built environment and even the educational component about this. And I think there's really potentially some really nice opportunities to kind of merge these together a little bit of momentum as well. I think it's sometimes, I think, hard for people to maybe see how the climate action plan might be very practical and have real genuine differences, and how the fact that Littleton has one will really make a genuine change and a positive change in the town. And I don't know, I can see that it says that there's some potential for one fostering support for the other. Actually, seeing as these two things are going to go kind of hand in hand over the next at least several months and most likely years as well. So it's good timing. Yeah.
Well, you get the youngest Littleton community to learn, right? Isn't that the best, to have them recycle or have them do a vegetable garden or have them do those type of learning opportunities, or how we can explore and just have, recycling is just such a great tool and easy for 5-year-olds to do. They can learn about plastics and stuff. So that's totally something that we're looking into, how we can have the sustained environment as part of the building, and the building really becomes a teacher, is something we like to do because it's inherent. Isn't it cool when you're just walking along and there's a mural of something that you see that resonates for these little ones in the future? So it's definitely on our mind. So
yeah, it's nice to see Littleton in the news for the hydroponic lettuce.
Yeah.
Someone's very excited to see that.
John.
Yeah, thanks. So love it. And I had a chance to spend some time on the website today. So for the rest of the committee, if you haven't been to the Shaker Lane School, like there's a lot of information around the things that they've already thought about there, which I thought was really, really informative. So I just hadn't taken the opportunity, but there's an entire site that has all the presentations as well as some of the early designs that they're thinking about. And I assume that's what you'll be talking about as you move into sustainability. The question I have for us as a committee is, like, I don't know much about the MSBA process, confines, all of those things. Is there
Yeah.
a set of information that you think would be helpful for us to engage with to be a most informed partner?
Oh, that's
Is there
great. Yeah.
resources somewhere outside of the Shaker Lane website that you'd recommend we spend a little time on so that we maximize our time together and
Absolutely.
we won't be the experts at finding the opportunities until we can look at some of the materials.
Yeah, they have a website, of course,
Okay.
the Mass School Building, I think it is .org, I believe.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that. But also on our website, I think it's just the process to understand how involved this project has been before we even came on a year ago. It's been 3 or 4 years before that. So it's definitely getting in the pipeline and getting reimbursement by the Mass School Building Authority, which is important to fund the project as well, or to support the funding of the project. So that's a loaded question, John. There's so much to it. I'm happy to break it down. There is actually on the website, did you see there's a video that explains it pretty simply by cartoon is the guy's last name, but that
The
kind of
MSBA process.
Yeah, the MSBA
Okay, cool.
process. Yeah.
Cool. We'll check it out.
Video, which is, I believe, or I hope, is on that website. So that's kind of a simplified, high level, what the process is and how a town or a district or a city gets admitted into the MSBA pipeline.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. So,
thank you for stopping in. That was
absolutely.
really great to connect with you. Yeah, and I don't know if you're sticking around, but the next
I can take my
topic,
camera down.
the next topic is our regional energy manager hire, and you may also want to know. So just to update everyone on that. So again, we had the EECBG, which is I forget now what it stands for. I had it in my head a minute ago. But we got a grant with the towns of Dunstable, Pepperell, and Townsend to hire a regional energy manager. And the update is that there has been a hire. Her name is Michelle Zelenka. It's Zelenka. And she will be starting on February 24th. There's a meeting next week to talk about the work plan and onboarding with the other 4 towns and NMCOG, North Middlesex Council of Governments, who did the hiring for us. And she'll actually be, I think the way it works is she's sort of an employee of theirs, but they then contract with the towns. And Diane Dickerson will be going to that meeting. I can't make the time that it is on the 12th, but I will learn more after that. I don't remember if did I send out her resume?
No.
Okay. I will throw it up on the screen real quick if I can, but then I will send it out so that everyone can see it and Margaret can include it in the minutes. There's the share button. That's big green. There we go. There we go. Sorry. I don't use Zoom. Usually I'm on Google, so let's try that. Now I'm not sure what's happened to my screen. Do you guys see?
It's very small.
We see your whole screen. We see
You see the whole screen?
we see the whole thing.
Okay, well,
What I usually do in these cases is I go to the little dot, dot, dot and say to look at it at 100%, and then I just scroll around to where I want it to be.
well, I thought I chose just the window, so let me try that again.
Because when people share a lot of numbers, that's important to be able to read them.
There you
I
go.
can
There
see
we
that.
go.
That's
There
good.
we go. I thought I selected just the window before, but I guess not. Get maybe a little bit bigger. Try that. So anyway, yeah, she's actually coming from Texas. I think she has family in the area, so she's was looking to move back to this area. But in her interview, she talked about how she had been studying history, but then as a result of weather events and different things that happened in her experience, she really became much more interested in environmental studies. And so she's done some work with energy audits and different sorts of research, as you can see here in her work experience. So everyone who sat in on the interview thought that she was, had a very positive opinion. So we're all very happy to have her starting in a couple of weeks.
Is she splitting her time across the 4 communities at the same time, or is it like sequential, like she's working with one and then the next and then the next? I can't remember how her time was.
Yeah, I think the plan, and I think this is going to become more clear after the meeting next week, but I think the plan is that she'll sort of be spreading her time between the 4 towns. I'm sure it won't be, she may
here, Tuesday there, whatever. Yeah.
It may be that she has a rotation, or it may be that some days she's just in her office, and doing work. And yeah, so that's a little bit TBD, and that's something that Diane will be finding out. Emily, did you have?
Yeah, sorry, just a quick one. What did you and Diane decide were the priorities and responsibilities and the deliverables and timeframes on the deliverables and things like that?
Originally we had put in a fleet analysis as our priority, but Diane definitely let them know that our priority was now the climate action plan, since we've been able to work with Fleet Advisor to get a lot of that, to sort of work on that aspect. So I would say that it's partly on us as we talk about the climate action plan, what steps we want. And I mean, we'll need to work back and forth with her. I can't really, it's probably a bit of a chicken and the egg right now. We need to talk to her about what she thinks we need, and we need to talk to her about what we think we need, and come up with that plan.
And how will that, how do you envision that happening? Is there going to be standing meetings as we onboard her, so that we make sure we don't lose time?
Yeah, I think probably once she comes on board, we'll want to meet with her and Diane, maybe 1 or 2 of us, to work more productively than a once a month Zoom meeting.
Right. At least until she's onboarded and can do. I mean, she'll need some directions on what the town expects from her, and that seems to be coming from the sustainability committee. And the question is, how have we really defined it well ourselves of where we want to take it, and can we put down objectives and estimated timelines, and so that we can ask her if she can, once we we should have a plan in mind and probably documented that we can modify after we talk with her, but I don't think we should just throw it on her to come in and propose a timeline. I think we should try to do it as more of it as a management aspect. And then if she says no, she doesn't have the time, or she, through her other experiences, thinks it would take longer, because her resume does not show climate action plan. It looks more analytical, with the R, the statistical packages and so on. So I think we have to be very defined on what we want and our expectations are, so that we get the most out of this opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Emily, I was going to second that maybe, and I wonder if one approach we could take is to copy a term from, I think it's Brene Brown, which is like paint done. Like, what do we think done looks like? Like, so if we can lay out what a successful engagement is and sort of really make sure that she fully internalizes what we expect, that kind of destination, the outcome, and then obviously given that she has the set of experience, and tactically maybe obviously leave it up to her to have that flexibility, that creativity, and kind of tactically maneuver towards it. But I'm with you. I think just really, really over communicating what that end goal looks like. I could imagine that's going to be very helpful for her to get that sense of direction. Otherwise, if it's sort of, do X and then do Y and then do, that can end up, I think, being less productive at the end of the day than really having a very mission-oriented onboarding.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Charlotte, how do you think we should do that? I mean, is it better, and this for everyone actually, should we get a subcommittee together, or even it could be the whole committee, but have it a working committee? We roll up our sleeves and we say, this is what we want, and we hash it out, maybe in person, to make it go faster. But I think we have to do it sooner rather than later, and really have a defined, this is what,
yeah. I mean, I can give some thoughts about what I would do, but then I'm also not as familiar with the processes of how public meetings and quorums go. So if I was approaching this from a work perspective, I would say having her involved in some of those deliberations and discussions and kind of creative moments would actually, I imagine, be helpful for her to really fully understand and what it is that we want, versus being given a kind of marching order as a soldier. You actually participate in the strategic planning. So I think having, whether it's all of us, whether it's one of us, whether it's a couple people, really going through that process with her, and I would always argue for that to be in person. I think you get so much more back and forth and discovery, right? It's not about who's making a decision, it's about co-creating something and really kind of having those like, oh yeah, moments, right? I find if you can really get that at the beginning, then you can say, okay, great, now we can have more of this report back and exchange and remote virtual engagements. But I would certainly be all for having an intensive in-person period at the beginning.
Don.
Sure. From what I sent at last meeting and what I've sent recently for this meeting, sort of addresses that, because you had a concern about what do we do initially. And what I recommended, which is my point C in this case, is we really sort of follow what Canton had done as a roadmap. And it is actually very well structured. And of the 10 things I suggested in the beginning, one of which is to sit down with the candidate, see what's in the contract, what the obligations are we've already agreed to, and sort of work out what is like a statement of work, which people do in project management, and decide what are their priorities and where we'd like her to focus on in particular, and also connect her up with some of the people that have done this. I mean, she'll have questions, and yeah, I quickly looked at that resume too. And I agree there was a lot of statistical packages and stuff. And it sounds like a good person to work with, but she is going to need direction. And I would think some of it come from us, and maybe a smaller group of us, so it isn't all over the place. And also Diane Dickerson, who has done some of this. You know, I keep on going through the presentations that were given by Canton and Acton, and they're actually very clear-cut type things. And I think stepwise you go through it. If you look at it, it's actually broken down fairly nicely. And where I think we need most of the work is on the energy side of things. And there are various tools for doing that. I've also tried to figure out what both the towns of Acton and Canton did when they had a consultant to do technical analysis, stuff that probably none of us will be able to do well, but have her do certain tasks. And yeah, that sort of leads to the discussion of what needs to get done in that first phase. If you look at what was presented by Tom Birmingham, it was broken into 3 phases and then further broken down. And what we're at now is sort of pulling stuff together in research and analysis, which was suggested for about 2 months. Mm-hmm. So you should read both those documents. The first one was the foundation of what climate action plans are happening overall to us from the state and the feds, for who knows where the feds are going to be, and also the Greater Boston Priority Climate Action Plan, which is a very broad brush thing done by MAPC. It includes 147 communities in eastern Massachusetts and southern New Hampshire. My take is that too broad of a brush. We need to be more focused to Littleton. But you should definitely read that. I agree. We need more meetings. We need a subgroup to work on. I also suggest we need a workspace for our products, and so we can look at and keep with it more than once a month. Yeah, without question.
Charlotte, you were next. Before you go, if I could just say, so I'm just going to summarize quickly some of the questions that were asked in the interview. One question was about her experience with energy analytics and management tools. So there is definitely, we're not the only town looking at needing a climate action plan. So it's something that I think a couple of the towns are hoping to do. So that's a big piece of what we're going to need. We also, she also answered questions about the town and opt-in specialized building codes. The region was resistant, and how would you handle that? So that was going to her, style of communicating with the public, and that's another aspect that we're going to need for the climate action plan. So let's see, and talking about collaboration with regional planning. Just so you know, like there were a lot of questions that were covering that she answered very well, that were not, it wasn't just can she crunch numbers and do an energy audit. So I do feel confident that she does have skills in that area that we'll be able to capitalize on. Go ahead, Charlotte.
Thanks. And firstly, Don, thanks for sending everything around. I read it a few times over. Took a few times for me to familiarize myself with much of the terminology, but I really appreciate it, and I think it lays out a great structure. But I know that's next on our agenda, so I'll hold on that one. But just coming back to the onboarding of the energy manager, and I think it's going to be important for us as the committee to say what, again, coming back to this idea of mission, is it just that we want it done? Like, do the plan? Because I think we can onboard somebody to say, here is a plan, here is what we expect, kind of run through the motions, and it will get done. But I think it's potentially helpful for us to highlight what does it actually mean to do it well. Are there specific things that would differentiate a done climate action plan? Okay, great, check the box, versus one that we're like, wow, that really actually meets the needs that we wanted for Littleton? Is that we really want to make sure that it is truly owned by the community, and really that there is this genuine buy-in from Littleton? Is it that a certain element of the climate action plan actually means more to us than other elements? And I think that sort of nuance of our expectation would be helpful to come across in the onboarding, so that that can act as a little bit of a kind of guiding light. And if we're going to have to prioritize, if we're going to have to emphasize certain pieces over others, if we're going to have to look at, shifts in funding. But that's maybe one area where I think it could be helpful for this committee to kind of convene and say, what does a good one look like? And how do we even know, right? That we're not just checking a checkbox here, but we're really doing something that is going to make a difference. Because I could imagine you can go through those motions slightly automatically and you would still produce a product, but it may not be one that we ultimately would be excited about. So if that's something we can get consensus on, I think that could be quite helpful.
John, I did see your hand go up, but did you have something to add?
Every now and again, I click the wrong button when I'm moving, but since you've called on me, I think everyone's kind of hitting on the thing, right? Like, what is done look like is going to be important. The sense I have, Sarah, is this meeting in February is to talk about what her onboarding is and overall, like, what are the logistics of working? Like, does she work with the TAs of the 4 offices? I believe our responsibility, just to be clear, is to make sure that we provide influence and guidance to Diane to make sure, because it's a relationship with the TA's office that we're influencing. Do I have that right? Like, she doesn't work for the sustainability committee. She works for the TA's office. And so it's almost, I see it similar as the Shaker Lane School discussion we were having before. Like, we don't make the call, but we get to provide really powerful input to what great would look like, and then get the output. And maybe I'm underthinking our influence over this person, right? But I do think knowing what good looks like is important. And as Charlotte was talking, we've done a lot of this work as Littleton that I personally haven't been involved in, but the master plan, form-based code, some of the open space and recreation planning. I wonder, do we have learnings from those where there were some like key elements that we did that planning, and some of it was check the box and other bits of it were like truly impactful and were important, because those might be really good inputs to look at. And I don't know who are the people in town that we might be able to go to get like the 2 or 3 nuggets of learning from those activities to serve up on the qualitative side of how what's resonated with Littleton in the past. That would be what I would tap into if I was trying to figure out what to tell this person. Like, hey, we've done these other plans. Here was where it was very impactful to Littleton. Take that lens as you build a climate action plan. Help us build a climate action plan. For what it's worth.
I was going to say, so the meeting is Wednesday morning and I can't make it. It sounds like if any of you want, I would say maybe one, so that we don't overwhelm. But I can talk to Diane and pass on the invitation.
Yeah, I would be interested.
Okay, Emily.
I was just going to say, maybe Diane should be participating in this meeting, or else we need a mechanism for taking the conclusions that we come to. How do they get conveyed to her? And you know, I don't know what the answer is, but right now we can talk among ourselves. But it's, you know,
Can we ask
if the
to
meeting is
watch the video?
Yeah.
yeah, have her watch the video, but can we have a liaison who meets with Diane weekly or something like that, or at least during this onboarding aspect, because I'm afraid that it's going to end up being whatever Diane wants to do, because she's, you know, she doesn't get the input and the direction from
yes, I mean, you and I have met with Diane on the other things that, and I do talk with Diane, so it's not that she's going to go off and do her own thing, and I normally would be making the meeting on Wednesday so that we could make those decisions and figure that out. I just have a doctor's appointment, so I can't make that meeting.
Yeah, it would probably be something where you need it ahead of time with her. So whomever's going, you don't want to be hashing this out at the meeting itself.
No, definitely not. But it will let us understand how we fit into that 4-town ecosystem and how we share her and all that. And then after we know that, then I'd like to talk to Diane and figure out how within Littleton, how we coordinate.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then next on the agenda is Climate Action Plan Next Steps. Thank you, Dawn, for sending that document out. Were there any comments, or do we want to discuss any of it?
Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize for not having it done ahead of time and sharing it with Rob, because that was the intent. So it's a little bit raw, it's out there, but the life's out today is sort of makes sense. And it isn't everything, but I do point to item C, where we sort of as a group need to decide which direction we're going in, whether we do a municipally sized climate action plan or we default to this this action plan that has 147 communities. And I think to our advantage is having the municipal size one that we can update and can be more customized. So anyway, that's a quick comment.
Just one question on that. So can we use that though as a playbook for a local one?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's helpful for that. Okay.
And I think the Canton approach is extremely well thought out, but doesn't mean we can't change things, supplement it, and so on. But at least it gives a good direction, a good timeline, and all that.
Okay, Emily, you were first with your hand.
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned that this was supposed to be a joint work by 2 committee members, and it's not. So what I would like to propose is that we table this until Rob and Dawn or whomever else needs to be involved go over it, even if we have to have a meeting like next week, because we're running out of time. The advantage of having a subcommittee is that you can roll up your sleeves and go through it in depth. So first off, I mean, I got this at 7 o'clock. I've not read it. So, yeah, because I didn't even know it came in until Charlotte mentioned that she had seen something. So I'm really concerned about it. So my proposal is that we table this, but have a special meeting pulled up after a subcommittee goes through in depth, so that we're not hashing through something that a subcommittee is supposed to be doing.
I think it is worthwhile to at least discuss what was sent last week. And, you know, last time decide, we're not going to read it because it's going to change. I didn't have time either. And I did an all-nighter and read through 350-page plans and did a lot of other stuff. I think we should at least have some reaction and not keep on pushing it off. And I appreciate what you're saying, but I think having some feedback is helpful. It could be a little bit, and we could do more later, but it'd be nice to have some feedback.
Charlotte, you had your hand.
It's not going to be legitimate feedback. I cannot put thought into it when I'm trying to listen to the meeting. So I have zero reading on it. Anything that you would get would be surface level, and except if someone could have digested what you've summarized from a couple 150-page documents in a half an hour between till our meeting starts. I don't think it's allowing us to give you an. I suggest that we table this until we have time to do it. That subcommittee gets together, and that we cannot wait for another month. So we pull another special meeting together in a week.
Oh, okay. But
That's the
you
proposal.
do recognize you had one document for a month. So, but yeah, you should look at it, digest it, and feel comfortable.
Okay,
Dawn,
we're not going to adopt anything tonight. We're not going to vote on anything tonight. But if anyone does have comments, then let's talk about it, and then we will bring it back. And if we need to do it before a month from now, then we can do that. Let's just see if there were other. Charlotte, did you have anything to add?
I have comments. Is it okay if I just add them now as general comments?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or I guess questions maybe. Dawn, I think it was really helpful, obviously, for you to go through all this. I think in one of the lines you say that Canton is a proven model. I'd love to hear, and I know this is a lot to ask maybe, but if you could cherry pick some of the reasons that you think it is a proven model, and maybe that, again, this might be something for the subcommittee, but I think that would be helpful to articulate what makes it a proven model. Was it the process, or was it the impact or outcomes, and thus why we might gravitate towards that one versus another one as our playbook? The second question or comment was, I wonder if we should emphasize more continuous community engagement as a sort of almost like a parallel channel across all three phases, or however many phases ultimately we decide upon, but having continuous community engagement in some capacity. It seems like a lot of hot button issues in town tend to get concerned that people didn't maybe know enough about them, or there wasn't enough information. And I think and people I've heard mention, that because maybe we don't have a newspaper or whatever, that there's some concern perhaps that there's information that's not reaching everybody. So I wonder if that's something we can incorporate, a sort of at least acknowledging we may need to be over communicating at the various different stages. And then the third one, again, I sort of punt this over to the subcommittee on this, but if and when and how we should put a bit of an asterisk in here around the federal funding landscape. I think you noted that the Inflation Reduction Act would be and has been a major source of funding, and with the current policies in place and executive orders in place, I wonder if we should just get out ahead of that and kind of identify some risk mitigation. Again, not saying this must or must not be in the plan in any way, or the plan for the plan for the plan. But those were three things that occurred to me as I was looking through that initial documentation. And again, thanks for pulling it together. But yeah, I'm also very happy to defer conversations and decisions, whatever is most appropriate.
Helpful. You have more comments, feel free to send them. I think those are good comments.
I just had one thing that I was going to add. Oh, and then John, if that's really your hand. um, just personally, I would love to see eventually, or, you know, maybe the next iteration, we start to add in dates and who's responsible for the pieces. That was only my comment. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think all that makes sense. I've not reviewed the document from tonight, but I'm fearful that maybe I'm missing some other documents. So can we just really articulate as a committee member, what should I be reviewing right now? Is there anything that I should be looking at or should have looked at? My takeaway from our last meeting was there was a document that was attached with the minutes, and as I read the minutes, that it was deferred to the subcommittee, right? And then the meeting, I don't have any comments on the document that you said in 7. If you need more, or I guess however we decide to go after that, I'm happy to review it. But Charlotte, it sounds like you were reviewing some other documents because maybe I missed some of the comments. So I just want to make sure that I'm aware of the conversation and, you know, what we're.
I was only referring to the first email a month ago.
Okay.
Cap outline phase stuff, and then I think like the 10 bullet points or so that you sent this evening.
Okay, got it. So the materials before last meeting, and then
okay.
Preliminary assessment document.
Got it. I just want to make sure I've not missed something. I have a tendency to delete emails, so
No,
thank you.
Just for a little orientation, I wasn't able to give an orientation about what was listed as preliminary assessment. That was really pulling together everything as a foundation. What the climate action plans are out there, including the one with our energy manager. You know, AmeriCorps had a hard time coming up with what towns were partners. It's to consolidate stuff so we have a common foundation. And it also summarized the 2 presentations we had from Canton and Acton. And what I try to do is pull everything together so we have a clear focus. So it wasn't in a lot of detail, but a lot of it was abstracted. I went through a lot of things to try to pull it together so we have a little better idea of what we're talking about. The 10 items for this evening, I realize no one really has had a chance to look at it. But you know, it's a question of what would the person do? What would we do towards the beginning of the project? And all this fits into phase 1 of what's presented by Canton, which was the analysis and research. So, yeah, pulling stuff together, including timelines. And, yeah, Charlotte very well said at the last meeting, what are the roles and responsibilities? And sometimes that happens in a large project plan, but it also happens with a statement of work when you bring someone on board. So statement of work is usually what someone bids towards, saying, I'll do this, includes this, doesn't include this. In this case, we have someone on board with whatever the qualifications are and obligations are. So that's sort of the legal stuff. In this case, it's sort of a voluntary mutual agreement. Oh, yeah, I'll focus on this, but not do this. And that has roles and responsibilities. So I'm trying to pull together stuff that collectively I've heard, and from my own experience from program and project management. So yeah, just look at those 2 documents. No one's going to be an expert in this, but it will focus things.
All right. So I think if there are no other comments, let's, I'll go out and do our reading. Don and Rob will take this to the next iteration.
Okay.
All right. And if you guys have something and want us to meet earlier, then let me know, and I can poll everyone to see if we can meet before whatever our next meeting would be, the beginning of March.
And just a comment about having a subgroup. that, being a task force, you don't have to worry about open meeting law, but certainly that subgroup brings things back for everyone, so everyone has equal opportunity to comment and influence.
Emily?
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. 2 documents that one is sent out, that has not yet been reviewed between the subcommittee, which is Dawn and Rob. So from my
Right.
perspective, I'm not going to study that because I'm waiting for the subcommittee to come back with their recommendation. Is that the takeaway right now? And if so,
Can I just say, everyone's saying subcommittee. I just want to clarify, there's no official subcommittee. Okay, that's not like, it's just two people of our committee are going to work on this. So I just want to be careful of the terminology. There's no official subcommittee.
Thanks.
And as sorry, as I suggested last time, it's worth reading it, even though things are going to change continuously. It's worth reading those 2 documents. I'm mere thinking; it's helpful.
And to the extent when you read it, you have comments or suggestions on it, you can email it to Don or me, and that will help us, right? Just like Charlotte did this evening. So to the extent anybody has input on it, in the meantime, please provide it. If you don't, that's fine. There's no pressure to provide any, but if you do, please provide it. That's all.
Yeah, you can provide input to them and they're going to work on it, but just
Yes.
don't go back and forth. That starts being a conversation that should be happening
We're not
in our
gonna
open
debate
meeting.
it. We're not gonna do
Right.
anything. Just gonna get input.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. So so we send input in if we want input on something that's a work in progress. That the 2 members of the committee who have committed to work together on this. Can we at least get a ballpark of when we would get that meeting, that input that we should focus on? Can we expect it next week? Would it be in 2 weeks? We need a significant amount of time before our next meeting.
Yes, I agree. Need more time.
Sometime in the next couple of weeks, Emily. Don and I need to talk and put together our schedules.
We have separate schedules. We need to work together. Yeah, I was doing international travel for over a week. Things come up. Yeah, we do what we can.
Okay.
So we'll plan to get it out to everybody in advance, well in advance of the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right. We're to member updates. Does anyone have anything to update? I don't actually think I have anything.
Yes, I do.
This time.
I'm sorry.
You do. Okay. Go ahead, Emily.
Okay. With regards to the fleet advisor, the Littleton Electric Department has given us the information. I went through and pulled that data and sent it to you, Sarah. Have you had a chance to consolidate and send off to fleet advisor?
I'm sorry, I have not yet, but let me put that on my list to do this weekend.
Okay. And I gather too, I have not seen any response back or any communication back from the fleet advisor since the spreadsheet was sent. You haven't either, I gather.
I haven't either, no. I mean, I know I'm on their mail list because they did send out, I think I forwarded it to the committee. They did send out just an informational message about some funding for heavy trucks or something like that. Let me look and see if I can remember what that was. Is that not ringing a bell with anyone?
There was something about buses that you sent out, but I didn't think that
maybe it was. I don't know. I'll have to look and find it. If I didn't send it out, I'll forward it. If it wasn't what I already sent, I don't remember what it was. Anyway, the point is, I'm on their mailing list, but I haven't heard anything back from the consultant.
Okay, excellent. That's it for me.
Any other updates from anyone?
I do want to, I'm sorry, I thought about something else we should bring up. On the minutes, we talked about you and I working with the Montessori school and high school with regards to communications, I guess, in particular the Energized Littleton, and we haven't done that. So we should have that probably as another action item, continued action item, to get together and do that, if we still think it's appropriate.
Sure. Okay. Okay, if there's no other member updates, I guess new business. Was there any new business?
Yes, for new business, I have.
Okay.
Okay. I've been thinking about how we potentially can interact with the town administration and the departments. So I sat down and looked through all of the departments that we have using the Littleton website. And for each department, as I read their mission statement and so on, I sat down and started jotting out what sustainability projects they might potentially work on. You know, if it was, you know, something that we could potentially, as a committee, could go in and say, okay, through our knowledge, you know, take the knowledge that people have, you know, the committee has gained by going to these conferences and so on, or just independent research, and identify areas and which departments would be a potential owner of that type of project. And I have a couple, if it would help, just to spur ideas. Let's see. One of them was, sorry here. Something, for example, like the Department of Public Works. They might want to consider establishing contracts with recycling/garbage collection for special bundle pricing to encourage neighborhoods to use one service, thereby reducing the number and frequency of garbage trucks on the road. This conserves fuel, reduces noise, improves road safety, and things like that. So going through each of the departments and saying, okay, what projects could we potentially float by them? You know, as an advisor to the town and to the select board, what projects do we think we might be able to do? And this is something that we should, I think, keep internal to the committee until we have a chance to, you know, maybe have some brainstorming sessions and come up with lists, then prioritize, and then potentially go to the town administrator with proposals of these are some projects we think would be appropriate for the town of Littleton at this stage. So that's what I would like to propose, going back to what we were discussing with Scott.
I'm sorry, what did you say you'd like to propose?
I would like to propose that we as a committee sit down and actually, well, I guess I would call it a working meeting where we sit down, maybe it's one of our face-to-face meetings, and hash out for each type, you know, what type of projects do we want to potentially propose to the town? You know, much like the charge, you know, the charge infrastructures is a key one, but for each of the departments, there's different areas that we could consider, since, you know, some of them are low-hanging fruit that could easily be done. if it was brought up to their attention that this might be something that would be good for sustainability. But to get a good list, I think we, the committee, should sit down and have a working session where we come up and we do a brainstorming session and brainstorm like potential ideas, then prioritize. And that's what I would like to propose as new business.
Okay. I think I understand. So maybe this is something I'm just trying not to, I don't want us to spread too thin. I do want to be able to focus on the things that we've already talked about tonight and make sure that we're doing those well. But I'm wondering if maybe in a few months this would be a great idea to do and like you say, have an in-person meeting that we could do that. John.
Yeah, I actually really like the framework of thinking about it department by department, Emily. But as you were talking about it, it almost like I do share the concern that Sarah's raising around spreading ourselves too thin, and I started thinking about it almost not from the perspective of separate projects, but those are almost like a set of reasons that these departments would want to engage on a climate action plan, right? Like, is that those would be cited areas where those departments could play a role and therefore have buy-in in the excitement of the climate action plan, rather and maybe it's different. Maybe I'm thinking about it and they are two very separate and unique initiatives, but it was almost like it's a subset of, once we're trying to get community buy-in, part of it's the community, part of it's departments. And it's not saying, hey, why don't you do this? It's like, here's how you can participate in the climate action plan and be one of our, co-conspirator, the co-partners in it. And here's how we can help you and how you can help us, like that. Like, it's a symbiotic relationship in that way, rather than we're building a climate action plan and we're asking you to do this thing on the side. It feels like there's maybe a way to connect the two things.
The two things would be definitely connected because it's part of the actual implementation of a climate action plan is to actually do some of these tasks. Maybe what the sustainability committee could do is be the facilitate a meeting. You don't want to dictate these are the projects you want to do. You want to come in and have straw man proposals to get the ideas going, but you want complete buy-in by encouraging. You might not even share the ideas with them, or most of them. You just want to have them at your fingertips so that you can sort of promote them towards that thinking, so that it comes up and is their idea. But as we work at the high level for the climate action plan, you're going to go down into the subcommittees, much like I believe it's Acton had detailed points on their climate action plan. This might be something that we start getting, the company or the departments thinking about, because then it would fold in. But I don't want to do things necessarily serially. I'd rather do it in parallel. They might as well be starting to think about it, but maybe we can facilitate, the committee can facilitate the thinking, and that might be what we can bring to the party from a department's perspective.
All right. Is that, Charlotte, I see your hand up. Sorry.
No, if you wanted to conclude on this one, it was going to be a somewhat separate comment.
Okay.
Well, just the thought that Emily brought up made me wonder, do we have a mechanism for sort of surfacing ideas and then parking them somewhere. If we're conjuring up ideas, I don't know if it's a shared document or, I mean, a sort of a private workspace or something where we can park things. Because Emily, your comment made me think, what if there are things that come up, but we think, wow, we've got a really full plate right now, but it'd be amazing if we could turn to this in 6 months' time, or even, next year, sort of have a parking lot of stuff that we'd like to do, that we can, revisit in terms of what our priorities and goals are. So I wasn't sure if that was something that we already have, versus, you can go through the minutes, of course, and search the minutes, but I wonder if there's like a little kind of to-do list that we can maintain for records.
Margaret, did you have a comment on
I
that?
just wanted to answer that in a way. Is I remember Renato, he had a parking lot, and it was just part of the minutes, and it's something that you can put at the end of the minutes as a parking lot. And then it's a tickler for anybody who wants to maybe, it's a tickler for you to think about it, and also as we go through all these other things that, as Sarah says, there's a lot that we're working on right now. But as those fall off, then we can plan to put them on for another meeting agenda, and they're already right there waiting for us. Does that address your concern, Charlotte?
Is there a way to see all of those collated though without going through each of the minutes? And I'm because I was thinking of it less about maybe an item for discussion and almost more like a project area or something that we might say, this is an area of interest for the committee, but we don't have the bandwidth yet or at the moment to explore it. But hey, in 6 months' time, if we're like, oh, we've got some extra time, what do you want to do? That we could kind of look at this list. So I hear what you're saying, Margaret, in terms of that parking lot on the agenda, but I wonder if there's somewhere to put them. And maybe it's not necessary if we don't have a long list of things that we haven't yet got to.
We used to have a list of, I don't know, about 10 things at one point, I remember.
Yeah, we used to keep those parking lot items on each agenda, and honestly, I think we removed it because it just made a long, messy agenda, and they weren't really serving a purpose because they were just sort of hanging there.
Yeah, except the climate action plan came back. So we do pull things off the parking lot periodically, but yes, I do think it kind of hangs on the agenda.
Yeah, so that gets back to what I was saying. It'd be nice to have an online place that's private only we have access to, where we can have stuff like that. We could have a parking lot. We could also have work projects. Yeah, work products. Sorry.
Yes. Why don't I talk to I'll talk to, I guess, the town clerk and the and the IT person about where that could be, because I know before, I asked way back to have a shared Google Drive, and that was discouraged because it wasn't publicly accessible, and someone could argue that shared documents were deliberations or something. So let me see what the current solution is, because certainly other committees must need this as well. So why don't I talk to them about how we can do that?
That sounds great. And as far as not public awareness, certain people could have access to certain areas. You could be administrator for the parking lot, and people working on the climate action plan, certain aspects could have that there too. But you need some sort of common working space.
Yeah. I'll take that action to ask about that. Anything else? All right, then I think our next meeting currently is planned for March 6th. By that time, we should have more information about the regional energy manager, and we'll have stuff from the climate action plan you guys are going to work on. And Charlotte, I think you'll have had the meeting with the Shaker Lane committee, right? All right.
Sorry, not necessarily. They are having their meeting. Meryl's on the line, so can check me here, but they're having their meeting to establish the committee on Tuesday. I don't know if that will then mean that there's necessarily going to be a subcommittee meeting before we meet on March 6th. So
Yeah.
TBC on that one.
No, this is no time to waste. So ideally, and this will be discussed once the committee is established, I'd love to meet the last week of February. So, and knowing actually that your group is reconvening in March, I think that even makes it more imminent to meet more sooner than later. So that's the target. So lots of cooks in the kitchen to line up, but hopefully that last week of February, we can certainly reconvene. So
Great. Okay, well, with that, if there's nothing else, if there's a motion to adjourn, I think we're finished.
So moved.
All right, and do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Emily,
Sorry, yes.
John,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes, it's before 9.
Rob,
Yes.
and Charlotte.
Yes.
I'm also yes. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.